Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Dream, and you are here at the It's All Good show. And you know how it works for me. I only do podcasts that are exciting for me and present information that I feel helps us all. And so the broadcast this evening, by the way, we're all doing this before the Super Bowl. These are all pre-recorded, as you know. And so this is pre-Super Bowl Sunday activity for us. And this is, I put a notice out on Facebook on some of the EESystem owners groups. And I said, whoever reaches out and contacts me, I've got spaces. I want to do a broadcast about the Energy Enhancement System owners and some of their stories from the centers. And most of you that watch this podcast already know that I am a huge fan of the EESystem, which is Energy Enhancement System. And I'll just very quickly share my story. In September of 2020, I had back-to-back strokes. It completely caught me off guard, as those things do. And I was in the hospital for 12 days, very challenging because prior to all of this, holistic healing practitioner, traveling the country, doing the tour of love, sound healing events all over, not very much in alignment with allopathic medicine. My thing was like, if I break a bone, I'm going to love allopathic medicine. But outside of that, I think I'm okay. Healer, heal thyself. And after 12 days in the hospital, I got out. I had, I was in a wheelchair and using a walker, but really barely able to use the walker. And we had touched thousands of lives over the years. Pre-COVID, we were getting 300, 400, 500 people to our standalone events. So people were coming out of the woodwork, offering up solutions to assist me in my stroke healing. And body as a barometer, nothing felt right. And then I got a Facebook message, of all things, from Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. And she explained that we had never met each other in person, but that she had been following me. We had presented at a couple of the same conferences. So she knew about me. She'd been following my tour of love with my wife, Stephanie. And she explained that she was the founder and inventor of a scalar technology that had been proven very successful for people that had had strokes. And she said, if Dr. Dream, if you can get to Las Vegas, your treatments are on us. We need to get you back out there doing what you do. And at the time, I just thought it might be nice to walk. But so I went ahead and we got down to Las Vegas, got into at that time, there were only 20 public systems around the world, and there wasn't one in Las Vegas yet. So she had me over to her home where she had a 16 unit in her guest bedroom. And she says it took me 45 minutes to get back to the guest room, but probably still took a half hour. But anyway, it was going to be a 3-hour session. And after 2 hours, I was getting up out of the bed and my wife said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've got to go to the bathroom." She said, "Do you need some help?" And I said, "No." And I walked past my walker and I walked all the way to the bathroom, maybe 70 feet. And I urinated standing up, which I hadn't done in 2.5 weeks, and walked back. And Stephanie was just wide-eyed. And I said, "I have no idea what's going on, but the proof is in the pudding." And the pudding just walked to the bathroom and peed standing up. Ever since then, I've been an incredible fan of EESystem. That very day, I said, "I want to buy a cube." And she said, I did not invite you here to sell you anything. Let's continue the process. We were there 5 weeks, 70 hours. We did leave Las Vegas with a cube, and the rest has just been part of my story. And so from my perspective and everything that I know about Sandra, having spent 5 weeks in her home, getting to know her family and everything else, these are people doing this at the highest level. And personally, I couldn't be more grateful. And to me, my story just speaks for itself. At this point, we've been to 36 different centers doing our Sacred Sounds and Scalar Energy experience. The stories I've heard are absolutely amazing. 3 of the people that are joining me here today, we've done events at their centers. And it's going to be fascinating to hear why each of these owners got involved with EESystem, what they've noticed personally in their own lives, and then some testimonials from their own centers. So, spoke a lot right there, but now I just want to dive in. And first off is going to be Terry and Jane. Terry and Jane have the EESystem Center in Whitewater, Kansas. And they've become very, very dear friends of Stephanie and myself. And Terry and Jane, welcome to the It's All Good show.
Afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And so tell us, give us an idea of why you were drawn to EESystem, what you've found in your own experience, and then share some of the testimonials from your center.
Go ahead.
Well, I have had chronic allergies all my life, and therefore chronic migraines kind of went with that, a little bit of PTSD and nightmares. I also had bursitis in my hips and arthritis. And after I spent 10 hours in Nebraska at Grand Island, I came back to and had 2 4-hour sessions in Manhattan, Kansas. And then I noticed that I was off. I had chronic asthma, that I was on 2 inhalers, a nebulizer, and a pill. So 4 prescriptions. And after 18 hours, I noticed that I was not needing any of the medicine, which 1 inhaler by itself was $250 or so a month.
After insurance.
After insurance. So I just kept noticing. I went here and there, was in Rockwall, Texas. I was also at Synergy in Oklahoma City. Had about 28 to 29 hours and had relief. About my chronic allergies are about 90% better. And I still have a few allergies. I have to watch what I eat. But I mowed last spring without a mask on, first time ever, and I couldn't even have told that I'm, I had dirt in my teeth. I was so proud that I didn't have a mask on. But anyway, so after that, we talked about it and decided to have our own scalar system. We have 12 units. And we've seen a lot of miracles so far. We have several cancer clients that come. One started about a month ago, and she was on oxygen and could barely get into the center. And now she's going back and forth to the bathroom in the center without her O2. She's not labored as bad. She took the pulse oximeter off. Last time she was here, she was 94% after several minutes. We've had vision clear up. We have a diabetic female that comes that was legally blind and couldn't drive, and she's now driving with glasses.
We had we had a brain tumor. Lady with a brain tumor, she'd come several times and went back for her MRI, and her brain tumor has shrank. Still there, but it has shrank. And she has also cystic fibrosis, and she has one of them $30,000 vests that shakes her, that keeps her going. she can go 2 or 3 days without it after she comes in. I myself had all my life, I've always had my proteins and a little bit of blood in my urine. Doctors, oh, you're eating too much red meat, or you're eating this, or you ought to eat that. But they never really gave me an answer. Last March, I went in and had extensive blood work done. And with Jane being a retired nurse, we were sitting there going over the results, and my kidney function is normal now.
No blood, no protein in the urine anymore.
Right. We did have a lady that was very sick that had stage 4, and she was, when they first brought her in, she was, and this is reality. She was in a wheelchair, and then she got to where she was coming twice a week, and she got to the point where if I wasn't the doctors wasn't telling me I was sick, I wouldn't feel like I was sick. And I told her right then, I said, you're at a very dangerous spot, I feel. And she said, why is that? Because she had come to me and she said, Terry, you're my last chance. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, the doctor sent me home with stage 4 cancer, and I have 2 months to live. And after 4 months of coming, she was feeling that great. And I told her, you were in a dangerous spot. And she said, why is that? I said, because if you quit now, you're going to be comfortable and things might just come back. You need to keep coming for a while. But she quit, and we lost her about a month ago. So that is the reality of how this thing works. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep encouraging your folks to keep coming. And one thing that I do is I really research minerals and vitamins and things that people are doing when they sit back and see that they tell me, oh, I'm eating like I'm supposed to. I'm eating healthy. Well, most people don't know what eating healthy is all about. I myself, I'm down 60 pounds from what I used to be. So it's not like I'm preaching to the choir, but I am. And there are just so many things like that I research on all that stuff. And I guide everybody in the different ideas, the different ways of eating different things, to do away with different things. And so many people don't realize the simple things that they can do. And I have a blast doing it, helping people with that. I just get up every day wanting to help somebody. So, but the way we got started was we seen Dr. Sandra and that other guy on the podcast when he was interviewing her. And that's how we got started. So
I have to say,
that was a good deal.
We were talking before the broadcast that I spent more time at your center, which I'm now more directly involved in, last year than I did at my own home in Idaho. I think I spent 6 or more weeks with you all. The most time I've spent with any center owners, and now we're more involved in business together. But what absolutely impressed me was the extra attention and care that you put in. And I know from listening to other owners that they're doing this same thing, but I saw you, Terry and Jane, day in and day out with your clients, and many of them I got to work with also. A couple of the stories you just told are people that I worked with directly. And it's just, I tell you, every time I see you, I applaud you and all that it takes. And this is not a business for you. This is, your hearts were drawn to this. And I think that's a commonality with, well, certainly the owners that we're going to talk to today. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing those stories. And we'll come back to you in just a little bit. Let's hear from Adam at the Quantum Leap EESystem Center in Monroe, Washington.
Hey, thanks for having me today. It's a real honor to be here with all of you. Well, long story short, a friend of ours came to us and said, hey, there's this new technology. You should come check it out. It's about hour and a half drive away. And my wife, Paulina, she was like, yeah, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, if you sign me up, I'll go. All right. So I wasn't too big on it. I'm busy. I have a tree service. And the next thing I know, we're in the car, we're heading an hour and a half drive away. And I'm a gentleman. I let everybody walk in, and the last seat available in the room was in the middle of the room. So I sit down there, take my work boots off, I get comfortable, and I must have just gone out immediately because I don't remember anything except for that I was having the most phantasmagorical dream I've ever had. I felt like I was completely altered on some type of substance. I thought maybe somebody slipped me something. I don't know. But anyway, I wake up. Actually, the 2 hours had passed, and the owner came and shook my foot, said, Adam, wake up. And I looked at her. I'm like, what? She goes, the 2 hours is up. And I said, oh, I felt like 15 minutes. So I was completely altered. My time space continuum was completely in another universe. So I came out of there and I'm standing outside. We're all conversing. And I noticed all of a sudden that the pain in my right shoulder was completely gone. Um, I'd had this pain for over a decade from a car accident where I tore the labrum. And I'm standing there, and it usually felt like a stabbing, almost like an ice pick pain. And I had no pain whatsoever. It no longer hurt to elevate my elbow. And so I felt like, wow, I just experienced a miracle in this 8-unit EE system. And we're driving home, and my wife and I are like, well, we're both very sensitive people. I don't know if this is a real thing or not. So let's invite some of our friends, and we'll take our friends down here and see what they say. So I bring some real loggers. I mean, guys that drink chainsaw gas for lunch, right? Those real tough guys. And I bring them down there, and they're like, Adam, what's that? What happened? I don't know. I had an experience. I'm talking the toughest guys that I know are having some type of experience in an 8-unit. So we sat down, we looked at our finances, and we first of all, we thought we might get a couple cubes. And then looking at the information available, we finally settled on a 12-unit with towers. And well, I'm sitting in what used to be a 3-car garage. And so this was my shop that I used for my business, working on equipment. And we emptied everything out, made this most beautiful center that I've seen yet. It's just like nothing else. You see the mural behind me. And as soon as we opened the door, we started inviting friends, and they started saying, hey, I just had a miracle. My skin conditions are gone. My allergies are gone. My anxiety is next to nothing. The loud music doesn't bother me anymore, et cetera, et cetera. A couple months ago, I had a lady come in. She could hardly walk. And I set her in the middle of the room, and I was one-on-one with her for 2 hours straight. And she calls me up the next day. She says, Adam, I have been suffering with the curvature of my spine, and today I woke up and I was able to stand up straight and pain-free for the first time in 10 years. And so she kept coming back. And then she's sitting here one day. She goes, Adam, my husband has a tumor in his stomach. Can I bring him? I said, I don't know why you haven't brought him already. So she brings him the next time. He spends 2 hours in here. Same thing, 100%. I'm focusing on him. Next day, he hops on a plane and heads to San Diego for 2 weeks on business. Comes back. He's supposed to start treatments for this tumor in his stomach. They do some blood tests, and he has 0 markers for that tumor in his stomach. 0. So I'm experiencing and I'm witnessing miracles after just 2 hours in our system. And I'm telling you, it's like every time someone comes in here, I'm observing miracles. And I'm just so grateful to Dr. Sandra for inventing this technology and then allowing it to come out to the world where we can all take part in it.
Thank you for sharing that. You are one of the centers that I've not been to, but I have paid a lot of attention to your wife, Paulina, and what she posts online about testimonials and some of the different modalities, knowing that you all work with right frequencies and everything else. And I see right back there, the for both of you, your commitment and dedication is nothing short of incredibly impressive. And yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here with us today, and thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Now, Jen Urban has the Urban Retreat Ministry in Swanton, Ohio. Stephanie and I have done facilitated 4 or 5 of our experiences there. We stayed on your property, which is that you have that distinction, as do Terry and Jane, which is nice for us because then we have all this access. I knew from the first time I talked to you, Jen, that you were going to be more than just a center we visited. You were going to be a dear friend of ours for a long time to come. And when we got there, it was absolutely validated. And the conversations, the long conversations that Stephanie and I have had with you, just cut through all the stuff and took us right into our heart space. And I know that you don't just do that with Stephanie and myself, you do that with all your clients. And so I was so happy that you stepped up and said you'd like to be part of this podcast. And now I'm going to stop because I know you've got a fabulous story and everything.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dream. You and Stephanie have truly been a blessing to me as well. And I just love our friendship. So glad that was able to come to fruition. My story, hindsight's 2020. We could probably go back to birth, but we're not going to do that today. But I will say that I firmly have come to terms and grips that this is my divine purpose. This is what I came in for. 37 years I had been in natural healing realm, starting as a chiropractic assistant, certified chiropractic assistant in Florida, where I worked with 2 doctors. One in particular, and he was from Ohio as well, but he was just such a healing soul, always wanted me to do his therapies on his patients, and he encouraged me in that. He said, you have a healing touch, to the point where I actually looked into going to chiropractic school at Life Chiropractic and got the very clear message at the time, although I didn't necessarily understand why because of the hindsight, that was not my path. I ended up moving back to Ohio and going into massage therapy. So I like the one-on-one relationships with people. I spent 37 years after learning about the body's innate ability to heal through chiropractic, just absorbing as much as I could on how we could help people heal without drugs and medications, and using other modalities that were either purely natural or completely non-invasive that encourage the body to heal the way God made it to. So skip ahead to when I was in massage therapy school, that would have been 27 years ago now. I got this whisper, and it was Urban Retreat and Wellness Center. And that was the start of God just telling me something's coming and knowing. So that dangled in my life as life was busy with kids and et cetera. And then after the event that started around the globe in 2020, I went deeper and connected more solidly with Holy Spirit and just went to him for everything. Seeking you'll find, asking you'll receive, knocking the door will be open, the truth will set you free. So I started learning a lot more about, in a nutshell, who I am as a child of God and what I'm here for. Started to learning our authority, the level of authority and power that we actually have that we never really were taught. Which that part goes into my ministry. During that time, it was almost 4 years ago now, I think it was March of 2021 is when I first heard about the EESystem. So one of Dr. Michael's interviews had come across my awareness, and as I listened to it, she was talking to another friend and explaining it. Something deeply, deeply resonated with me. And at that point, I knew that this had something to do with what God was talking to me about all those years. Having lost my husband about 11 years ago, I know that God purposely left us on this property for this purpose. And I did my due diligence. I looked at all the testimonials and experiences and the research. And then I traveled 10.5 hours away to an 8-unit system in Pennsylvania and spent the night there, which was a huge blessing, was able to learn a lot that way. I already knew at that point that I was going to be doing this and investing in it, but I just needed to experience it. So my process was I got to work directly with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael and her son Michael and her daughter Mela. Michael handled everything on a personal basis with me, from ordering the system to helping me figure out the design of the room. We decided to do custom-made shelving because I wanted it to have a different feel. And that was an 8-unit system that we started with in my home. And my objective was to come home and be working on my property and not outside of the house anymore. We had such a blessing of being able to have our center open before this massive expansion that started. And so I had people probably coming from about 15 states just to experience the EESystem. And some of them were here for their own personal healing, and others were here to experience it because they were being led to investigate opening their own center. So that, as far as my own personal experience, was just absolutely a beautiful experience. You know me, Dr. Dream. We have conversations and I talk to people for hours. I do that with all of my people. So whether they were coming in to experience the EESystem or want to know more about opening a center, I was always open to connecting and listening to them and giving them, paperwork that I'm sharing or this or that, or guiding them in whatever way that I could help them. To me, that's one of the biggest blessings, is bringing our brothers and sisters back together and connecting and sharing. As far as experiences go, for me personally, a lot of what I focus on is reverse aging, because we know that the science and research has already shown that the systems help to extend your telomeres, lengthen your telomeres, which is the longevity gene. So, the longer the telomere, the longer the lifespan, right? So I use several other modalities, but this system is a big proponent for reverse aging. So we're not anti-aging anymore, which is just slowing the process. We're actually aging backwards as we're creating more stem cells and healthy cells that our body can repair itself the way God intended. I will be blessed to turn 60 this year. So for me, I was already blessed to not have a lot of, or any really, medical issues. So people ask me, well, what do you feel? What do you feel? All I can say is that I don't sleep much. When we do overnights, my dog and I sleep out here in the center with any of our guests. I've had the technology on my property now for almost 4 years. Well, I'm sorry, 3.5 years. And I just feel good. Okay. I just feel good. I don't sleep a lot, but when I sleep deep and I wake up feeling refreshed. And I believe it's just really giving me the energy that I need to keep going. So that's my personal. Some of the things that I've seen are actually, I have a gentleman who has had snow white hair and beard, and he came in. He's a veteran, so he and another veteran would come in once a month for 5 hours. And after, several months, he came in, and it was before Christmas, and he was kind of, teasing me. And he's like, I'm really mad at you. And I'm like, why? And he said, well, look at my beard, because he always did the Santa Claus. So his white beard and hair is now got the mustache area is getting darker noticeably, but he's got long black strands of hair growing in. So that's a sign of reverse aging. He also he was a veteran with PTSD, and he was able to get past that. I think he had some nodules as well in his neck that have disappeared. We had a young lady who had MS. That was in my 8-unit system. I have since upgraded to 24 units. And Adam, like you, I'm sitting in what used to be a 2-car garage. We had it completely gutted and renovated and added on, a couple of bathrooms and a reception area and a massage room. So that's a huge blessing. But this young lady had come into my home with the 8 units. And in 2 hours, she came out and she said, I have to tell you, I'm legally blind and I can't see like 3 feet. Like we were standing, really close together. And she said, you would normally look blurry to me. And that sign behind you, which was maybe a couple feet behind me, she said, I would not have been able to read that, but I can read it now. She had opened her eyes when she was in the system and noticed that her vision was better. So that was pretty amazing. We've had many people have a reduction in pain, back pain, knee pain. The system does tend to help with inflammation in the body, so it's helping with nerve pain and that sort of thing. So lots and lots of that. Some people will have greatly reduced pain in 1 2-hour session, and others it might take several sessions because of a combination of things. I always tell people, look, we could have identical twins come in with the same issue, and they're going to have a completely different experience. So we always talk about their power, their authority, their intentions, and healing themselves. That's a long talk. That's part of my ministry in helping people remember who they are as a child of the Most High, and how much power and authority we have, and how we need to take back that power and stop giving it away and speaking life instead of death, just like Adam said with the C word. So I do a lot of that with my members to empower them to create the healing in their body. We've had several people improve their vision to the point where they're not just noticing it, but it's documented by their doctors. So their doctors are seeing a reversal in their decreased vision or an improvement. We have had people that have avoided blood pressure meds as well as reduced them and or come off of them. Kidneys is another really big area that even Dr. Sandra Rose Michael talks about. I've had people in stage 3 and stage 4 kidney failure that began to produce their own urine. They weren't before they came in. One person was able to, her kidneys improved to where she did not have to have anything further medically as far as dialysis. And one gentleman is type 1 diabetic from age 1.5. His mom says that she knows it was a vaccine injury, but he was able to reduce, he started increasing, well, he wasn't producing any urine, started producing that, and then those numbers went up, and then they started backing him down on his dialysis. Not completely off, because that's a whole nother area where it's difficult for people to get off of dialysis, because once you're put on it, they just kind of keep you on it forever. So that's something that people need to work with their doctor on. But he had a lot of improvements too. He came off of oxygen. His blood sugars were leveling out. He wasn't using as much insulin. So he had some really good improvements there. We've had, the C word, we've had those numbers go down. And I will say, intention is everything. So intention shows up both inside to receive the healing and to let your body know that, hey, I'm ready to heal, and let your body do it. But it also shows up in physical ways where you're making positive changes, and you may be doing some other things that are helping. But we're seeing those numbers go down in some people, sleeping better, more energy. I've actually had people release negative energies that have been attached to them and causing them problems for many years. They were able to release that. So that's another thing that the system does, is it's clearing stuck energy in the body and allowing the body to function the way it needs to. One of my, well, it's a husband and wife, but his wife, the first 3 times they came in, and this would have been in my 8-unit system in the home, she was in a wheelchair. And then the 4th time I was helping someone sign in at the island, and I turned around and she was standing in my kitchen, and I was like, hi, I mean, where's your wheelchair? And she's like, she didn't have it. She hasn't had it since. And that was 2 years ago. So that was amazing, just to see her not have to use that anymore and see her health continue to improve. And the last thing that I would mention would be parasites. I've had people who were actively doing parasite cleansing, and they knew that when they came in here, it activated them kind of like a full moon. So they could take their paracleanse or whatever they were using prior to coming in, and they knew that it was going to be more effective. So, yeah, that's about all I have right now.
Jen, I want to thank you for sharing all that, and I just want to bring up something about you and your energy, and you mentioned it when you used the word community, and you are, more than just about any person I know, a community builder. And not only in your area and the people that come to you, and we got to see so much of that, but also within our own EESystem family. And I honor that quality in you, and it is ever apparent. And I'm forever grateful for that with you, and it also is inspiring for others. And thank you for sharing that. We'll come back to you in just a little bit.
Thank you.
Penelope, so this is you and I have not met in person. You're another one that I have followed your posts and been impressed with your perspective and your energy. And you stepped up, and I thought, absolutely. And you're the only one of the the panel here that doesn't have a center yet. And so I like that we're going to get that perspective from you. You'll be one of the most recent centers coming up here. It's going to be in Colorado. I'll let you talk about that. And you have a powerful testimonial of your own and story that guided you into this. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for even hosting this. And I'm excited to look at your videos. Last minute, like I told you on the phone this morning, I saw a message about the podcast and I wrote to you, what can I do to help? And next thing you know, here I am. and I have to say, this whole process has been a little overwhelming. I'm used to being the person in the background, kind of doing my thing over there, and being up and center like this. I will admit to everyone right now, I am nervous. so bear with me. And thank you again. And I will attest to Jen Urban because over the last 2 months, I've gotten to know her and she is a blessing. She is pure heart. And I've learned so much from her in the way of communicating to build community. So yeah, just to give you a little introduction of who I am, and that will be a nice intro into like how Jen has been helping the bull get out of the china shop, as they say. So I came to natural medicine when I was 26 years old. I was an avid kayaker. I was kayaking all over the world, and I had gone off a 60-foot waterfall in my kayak intentionally, got thrown around in a hole, and I still had 12 miles that I had to paddle out after putting my shoulder back in. So it was kind of crazy, to say the least. And this shoulder, I'll talk about it a little bit later. This shoulder was never the same after that. I was in this hole for like 15 minutes, and you have to stick your shoulder way out and make yourself real small so the undercurrent will catch your paddle and pull you back out of this hole and send you down river. Otherwise, you're just in there until you no longer have oxygen. So I've always had problems with this shoulder, and fast forward now, after that accident, I started having equilibrium problems, and I started having some things. Now, again, this is 26 years ago, 26 years ago. And I went to numerous physicians. I was having all kinds of problems. I was 98 pounds. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I ended up having blood in my feces, and that sent me to the Mayo Clinic. At the Mayo Clinic, I was told that I had MS. And I had been an athlete, avid athlete, and skier, always lived at ski resorts. And I just knew this wasn't right. Something resonated inside of me where I thought, no, this was too sudden. This isn't MS. And I was already, a pro researcher at the time on health because no one was able to figure out what was wrong with me. So I decided to go back to the French Alps where I'd been living and up in a small village. And a friend of mine suggested we go to this doctor. And, I went to him and she called him. I'll go ahead and tell the whole story here because I know I'm amongst friends. She called him and she said, Dr. Romier, I have a friend visiting. And before she could say any more, she said, okay, we'll be right over, and hung up the phone. And she said, he knows that you're coming. I'm like, how is that? Did you tell him? And I was so confused by it. But here we go. We go to this doctor's office and he opens the door and he has me walk from one end of the room to the other. And he points out a point on the wall and walk back. And after that, had me lay on the table and started going through every one of my symptoms from the first, which was equilibrium issues. And I just started crying at this point. I said, this is finally after, 12, 13 physicians, the Mayo Clinic, this finally sounds resonant with me. And I started crying and I said, am I going to die? And he said, no, you would have. He said, but what's happened is the right cranial bone has slipped just slightly enough under the other that it's put pressure on the fluid around your brain, which has put pressure on your hypothalamus. And all of your organs have been slowly but surely deregulating. And, at this point, I don't even know what to say, right? Because I just left the Mayo Clinic 2 weeks later with every test imaginable to man. And they stuck the label MS on me. So he just did some very light pressure touch with me, all over my body, feet, head. And he said, when you get off the table, I want you to hold on to it, walk back to that point, and, make sure to hold the table. So I did. And the room was at an angle. And it turns out that my eyes had adjusted for the angle and the pressure in my brain. And after that, I decided, well, it took about 3 months of seeing him every 3 weeks. I didn't change my diet, anything. But like I said, I was 98 pounds. I'm about 150, give or take, with, when I'm in really good shape with muscle. So I was skin and bones, and I was able to start keeping food down. I started healing. And this went on for, I guess, probably about 3 months total. But I had an incredible headache after that, just like he told me I was going to. And that set me out on the course to learn, what had happened. It was, it was magic to me at that point. And that set me out on this journey of natural healing. So now fast forward, 26 years of learning every modality and, studying under a siddhar and you name it, doing 300-hour yoga teacher training. I decided to get a piece of paper, put it on the wall, and start helping people with the knowledge that I'd gained. And I went into school for PhD in bioenergetics. And it was during my last year in school, just recently, that my dog, something happened. She got sick. And for 3 months, I tried everything that I knew to do. Herbs, using auriculotherapy, you name it. I did it with her, and nothing was helping. She was completely incontinent. She was fully blind. She had no use of her back legs at all. And the day that I was driving to the vet to let her go, a friend of mine from Florida called and said, and, I was sobbing. I was a mess. And he said, before you do that, why don't you try this EESystem? And he looked it up on Google and said, there's one in Boulder, which was about a 3-hour drive for me. So I did that. I drove to Boulder, and the first thing I did was go to a dog park, and I had to carry her everywhere at the time. And so I put her on the ground before we went to the center so she could maybe urinate, put her back in the car, went to the center, and the Onyx Center in Boulder, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. They let me bring Nala in there. And after only 1 hour of being in that center, and I only paid for 1 hour, it was $60 an hour. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is expensive, just to sit in a room. This was my wheels turning. And so I just paid for the 1 hour. And after an hour, she actually tried to stand up on her own. She didn't do it, but she tried. And for me, that was the most I had seen in 3 months. So I got a hotel. I paid for another hour for the following day. We went the following day for another hour. After that hour, she actually stood. Now, she fell right back over, but she stood, right? And for me, that was it. So I paid for their package that they had. I got a hotel for that whole week, and we went 2 hours every day. On the 4th day, and this is really cool too. I'm 52 now. And I was full-blown menopausal, and I had not menstruated for 2 years at this point. And we were in the center, and after the 4th day, 2 hours, she was actually standing on her own. I was still having to kind of wobble her and then, carry her a little bit. But on the way to the hotel, I started getting this excruciating pain. And by the time I got to the hotel room, I had started menstruating. I got an Uber to get me some menstruation pads. I got the largest ones possible. And that evening, I perspired so much in the bed that I had to change rooms because it was just a lot of perspiration. And then the following 3 days, I think, or 4 days, I was having to change out a pad almost every single hour. I didn't really put everything together at the time because I was there for my dog, right? And I just thought, well, it's doing something. I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something. And at the time, my gynecologist wanted me to have a hysterectomy because I had 7 fibroids that were all 2 to 3 centimeters in radius. So they were big. And And so after day 7, Nala was taking 3 or 4 steps. I stopped at that same dog park. Some of the people commented, like, what did you just do? Your dog, like, she's kind of taking steps now. So I went ahead and I came back home, and then I called to do an overnight in Broomfield, which was doing overnights with dogs. And Lisa, I don't know if you guys know Lisa and Trudy, but whew, that Trudy has a heart of gold, doesn't she? And Lisa as well, but man. So I did my first overnight with my dog, Nala. And the next morning we were going to breakfast, and I was talking to a friend, and I looked in my rearview mirror to, like, get my contact lenses in. And I looked again and I looked again, and I'm like, where are my wrinkles? I had no wrinkles. And then Nala, at this point, after the overnight, I could see like a significant difference with her walking. And so then we did another overnight about 4 or 5 days later, and then another. Then it was time for me to go to my gynecologist. No more fibroids. That was when it was like, that's what that was. Not to mention, I have never had a menopausal symptom since. So for me, that's all it took, because we're talking about 26 years of learning every modality, I feel like, that's known to man at this point. PhD, now I'm doctor of a physician of natural medicine. I've got over 20 certificates on the wall. And all this was just going into a zero gravity chair, laying there for a couple hours, or, sleeping overnight. And I mean, that's what happened in the EE Center, right? So now fast forward about, we have a new facility that opened not far from me, in Basalt, which is Michelle. I don't know if you know Roaring Fork Michelle. She's also, I haven't met, so far, I have not met a single center owner that I'm just not completely in love with. They're just such heart-centered people. So Michelle's wonderful, and she's even arranged that when she doesn't have anyone on the weekends, then my dog and we go over on a Saturday, and we spend Saturday night all day Sunday and Sunday night. My dog Nala now is insane. She's a husky. She's 3 years old, and she is running up the mountain. She is playing. A couple of days ago, I haven't seen this in a while, but she's actually like jumping like this again. Her sight, I mean, she was completely blind, but her sight's been gradually coming back distance to nearsightedness. So she can see now the ball. If I toss the ball about 2 or 3 feet in front of her, she actually pounces on the ball now. So she's actually her eyes are making that connection. We don't know what happened to her, but I'm about 80% positive it was a stroke, a full frontal stroke. And that's what brought me to the EESystem, was my little dog Nala. My center is not open yet. My grand opening will be the first weekend of July. And I'm tossing between, because I'm a pilot, and I've flown all over, I'm tossing between Flight Path, which is what I want to call it, and the Nala Center after my dog, which means light in Hawaiian. So that's my story of how I arrived to EE, and I'm so thankful for Dr. Sandra Michaels. I mean, yeah, God sent there for bringing us this technology. And it's hard to explain to people as well, right? I mean, there are these televisions that sit in the corners of the room, and then, but until they actually experience it, and which I have, I've had quite a few friends now that come with me and do overnights in Basalt, or, I've sent them in Scottsdale to different facilities, and a lot of different testimonials that I could also share, but not from my center being open, which I'm very excited to open, especially after meeting everyone and hearing all of these stories of people healing all over the world. It's just really empowered me that much more to bring one to my community. And full circle about that shoulder injury. This is, I just want to let people know out there, it's not that there's no pain sometimes with this. When my shoulder started healing, I was in the center with excruciating pain. And it was as if it was putting everything back in place and, pulling those muscles back into place. It was a lot of pain, but I have zero shoulder pain now. Like it's completely where it needs to be. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing and yours and everyone's today. And we'll get to Sonia here in a moment, your stories of your own experience and what drew you in. And I love yours. I had not heard this whole story before. And you mentioned two of the centers in Colorado that we've been to. And the Colorado EESystem community is absolutely amazing. And it's nice to hear that validation from you, and wishing you the very best with your center. But then it's not like I was going to say good luck. And I'm like, it's not about luck. It's about where you place your faith, where your heart is, your truest intention. And I can tell already that the center will be successful for all the people that are drawn to it, and you will be successful because of that. And that's very exciting. And now we move to Sonia Perry, and you were at the beginning of our tour in 2024. You're in Phoenix, Arizona. And we got there well enough in advance that you and I were able to talk while I was setting up. And I cried when I heard your story. It brought up so much emotion and where you've come from and what you've done. And then I got to meet your daughters and everything. It's just, my heart feels so connected to you and what you're about. And just side note, we're going to be at your center on Wednesday, and then a week and a half later or something like that. So I'm super excited about that. But thank you so much for stepping up and wanting to be on the podcast with us today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see you again, and so are my clients. So many of them returning for round 2. So it's definitely really exciting to have you back, and just to be part of this group. I'm listening to everybody's stories, and just, oh my gosh, my heart. I love our community, because I truly believe that so many of us were called to do this. And that's my story. So I guess I'll start a little bit with how that happened with me. So for those that I haven't met, I know the names because I've seen the names in some of the different calls that we've had. But my name is Sonia, and I am in Phoenix, Arizona. So I was actually part of one of when the center started opening. So I opened up in December of 2022. But the way my center came to being is that I was divinely led to open my center. It was through a series of events that occurred, and it didn't start out great because in 2020 my husband at the time was 51 years old, and he and I was in the corporate world, so I was nowhere near doing what I'm doing today. I was in the financial business area, and so in 2020 my husband had gotten a UTI. And at the time, we've always been holistic in my healing. So I obviously must have had, I knew that there was healing, natural healing that I've always believed in. So in my family, I'm the one who has always been more holistic in everything that I do. And so I had chosen, we have 3 daughters, and we had decided that we weren't going to give our children childhood vaccinations. I had done a lot of studying through our naturopathic physician and whatnot. So I was a little bit different, a lot, from my family. But so when my husband had gotten ill, I called our naturopathic doctor, and he says, well, what's going on? And I gave him the symptoms. He's like, bring him in right now. So we brought him in, and because it was at the peak of COVID, we tested him to make sure he didn't have COVID, and he didn't. He was negative. But he was having a hard time breathing. So we mentioned the UTI, that we thought that that's what he may have. And so he's like, well, let's get him into the hospital because we want to make sure that he doesn't go into sepsis, And I said, okay. And so, we weren't really thinking much because we were like, okay, he's going to go in. Our naturopathic physician has always worked hand in hand with doctors in the ER. It's never been an issue at all. And so we literally had just come off of a busy weekend. Our oldest two daughters, we had just left, dropped them off in college, and then our youngest was in high school. She was a junior, and it was her birthday actually. So we take him in, and I told my husband I'll take her to get her driver's license because he was going to do that. But I'm like, I'll go and take her, and we'll just pick you up later. Really not, we're thinking it's going to be an in and out situation. Unfortunately, just to, kind of keep the story a little bit short, we never realized that when he got into the hospital that we'd lose control of him. And so the hospital was refusing. First of all, I couldn't stay there. They had all the mask mandates. I couldn't stay at the hospital. They wouldn't even let me stay in the waiting room. So I had to leave. And they wouldn't contact me. I kept calling, they wouldn't get back to me. And finally, my husband started texting pictures, and he was sending me pictures, and he was hooked up to all of these machines. And right away, I called him. I'm like, "What's going on? I don't understand." I was a little frantic, and he just says they're trying to save my life. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like in shock. He's like, "My organs are shutting down." I'm like, "What?" He's 51 years old, and he didn't have any other issue. So I'm trying to get, this time I'm calling my naturopath physician. He's trying to get a hold of the doctor. The doctors aren't returning his call. They finally call me at 6 o'clock to let me know that they're going to put him in ICU because they just want to keep a better close eye on him. And I'm asking what's going on. They're like, "Well, we're not really sure yet. Where he's having a hard time getting blood to his organs." But I go, "Well, can you please talk to our doctor? He has his entire history." She's like, "Let's just see how he does through the night. We'll watch him through the night. And then if we need to, I'll speak to him." So she was just really avoiding wanting to speak to him. And I've never encountered that before. Suddenly I get a call at 5 a.m. the following morning, that they need me to come to the hospital right away because my husband's in grave condition. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "We just need you to come now." So I get there. And when I arrived, he was on a ventilator. So I didn't even get to talk to him. And, oh, sorry. I've said this story many times, but so I'm like, "Why is he on a ventilator?" And they're like, "Well, he was having a hard time breathing." I'm like, "You don't put someone on a ventilator for that." So we knew what was happening with that at the time. We knew what was going on. And so from there on, after that point, they did some other things. They were wanting to do all these different procedures on him. And my naturopath physician, I said, "You're not doing anything until you talk to our doctor." So she finally decided to talk to him. And all she did is she basically told him that she would not follow any of his recommendations, that she was more than capable of handling the situation. They wanted to run all these tests because they thought he had a blockage in his heart. They thought he had a blockage in his lungs, and that's what was causing it. They ran all the tests. Everything came back negative. The only positive test he had was a UTI. Long story short, my naturopath called me and he said I spoke with the doctor, and she basically told me she's not going to do anything I've recommended. And he goes, "We just need to pray. We just need to pray." And so a few hours later, I lost my husband. And so it was just a shock because it wasn't supposed to, I didn't understand. And so our daughters, so I was just praying. I've always prayed to God. God's always been in my life. And I was just praying and just asking for guidance and, please help me understand. So during this entire time, I'm just in this place, but I start getting all these messages from my husband. He comes to my sister and tells my sister to tell me that I'm going to have to make a really big decision. She's coming to him in her dreams, and she's telling me, "Tell Sonia she has to do her research because she's going to have to make a big decision." And at the time, I'm thinking, house, mortgage, insurance, all those things. I don't really understand, but as I'm going there, suddenly I'm being drawn. I'm thinking, what's going on? So then all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these 1111 numbers. I mean, everywhere. 1111 on my phone, 1111 on a billboard. I'd go to the gas station and my gas pump stops on 1111. And I'm like, "What is 1111?" So then I start researching. 1111 starts taking me down this whole path, and I'm learning about a lot of things happening in our world, what's going on. And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." And the craziest thing about it is that it's all resonating with me. Like I know that everything I'm learning is real. Like I know it in my heart. And and again, this is all happening. I'm kind of relaying the information I'm getting to my family. My family's thinking I'm this grieving widow, completely losing it because it's just stuff that's just unbelievable. But I know it's real. So all of a sudden I come across in my research something about the company I happen to work for is not a good company to be affiliated with. And I pray to God and I ask him to please help me with this because I can't quit my job. I'm a single mom. I have 2 daughters in college, one in high school, please help me, give me some guidance. And then 5 days later, I'm laid off from my job, just out of the blue. And I'd been working with him for about 9 years. I asked, and I look up and I'm like, okay, God, I couldn't do it. So you had to help me. So I knew that was him helping me. But then I'm like, what am I going to do now? What's my next step? So I'm a little worried. I don't tell anyone in my family that I've been laid off. I proceeded to take my daughter to practice that night. I put on my husband's wedding band because I just feel like I need a little extra comfort. And when I get home that night, I get ready for bed and I look down and I notice that his wedding band's missing. It's gone. So now it must have slipped off. It was big. So now I'm more upset about losing his ring than I am losing my job that day. And I call a friend and she says, Sonia, don't worry. She goes, we'll find it. There's cameras everywhere. So the following day I get a call from the gym and they tell me that they were looking, that they heard what happened and she was going through the trash and she's trying to find it. And she gets to the very last bag. And when she opens it up, because I remembered I had gone to the ladies' room, she goes, these bags have been moved everywhere. And when we opened up this last bag, a dry paper towel opened up and your husband's ring was right in the center. And as soon as that happened, my whole body lit up, like literally, like I had goosebumps everywhere. And I knew that God was telling me everything's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be okay. So I get in my car, I get ready, I'm driving to go pick it up. And on my way to go there, at this point, I'm not listening to mainstream media at all. I'm just listening to podcasts of certain, people. And all of a sudden, it's the very, very first interview with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. And she's being interviewed, and they're talking about this technology. And I'm just so excited. I'm thinking, wow, I can't wait to try it. This sounds amazing. But then at the end of that first interview, they say, Dr. Sanders says, now's the time to heal the world. If anybody can open a center, please contact us. I literally pulled over and my body is on fire. Like I've never felt this. And I knew everything was telling me this is what I'm supposed to do. Without hesitation, I sent in my name. I get everything sent over. Haven't even tried it, but I just know everything I know is telling me this is what I'm supposed to do. And thank God I did, because at that time, I believe there was like 77,000 people that responded to that interview. And so I'm on my way, I get approved, or I've got a center opening up, right? So now I'm looking for a place, I'm looking for a place for it. I couldn't find it. I'm 2 months out to getting installed. And during this time, I'm still continuing to get messages from the universe. I'm getting messages from my husband. It is the most incredible experience. When I tell this story, I still can't believe this is what happened. So I'm 2 months out to getting installed and I can't find a location anywhere. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Everyone's working from home right now. There should be so many places available. So I find my location where I'm at and I ask the owner, can I bring my brother? Because we're going to have to renovate the entire space. Like I had to take out new flooring, take down walls, put up walls. And he's like, sure. He's like, let me give you the code to the door. And he gives me the code and it's my husband's birth year. And I looked at my brother. I'm like, okay, this is our spot. This is our place. What do we need to do? This is what we need to make. So the entire time I'm being divinely led every step of the way. And so we get our center, not open. Well, it's all completed. And we were having to take videos to send them in. So my oldest daughter, who's 25 now, and she's in her second year of Chinese medicine. And she's the one that works with me the most at my center. She goes, Mom, look at the video. And I said, why? She goes, there's an orb in it. And I said, it's your dad. And she's like, I know. And so that video to this day is the video that's on my website. Um, and so I find out through my naturopath physician that he has someone who is open, who is um, a psychic medium who has been wanting to talk to me, but they didn't know if I was open to talking to them because my husband wanted to give me a message. And so I said, yes, I am now, because my whole world has just been completely just turned upside down. And I am completely open to the universe, God, spirit, all. I mean, I've always been very religious, but there's a difference. God's always been in my heart. And so I have the connection has just been more than I've ever imagined. And so she tells me that my husband's with me every day. He's with me today, the day that she told me. She goes, he's standing right next to you. She goes, but he wanted me to let you know that he's so sorry that he can't be here with you, but that this was your mission to complete, and he is so proud of you. And for that reason, today, I can tell that story because it was bigger than both of us. I mean, I never knew that that's what it was going to be. And when he told my sister early on that you needed to do your research, I didn't understand what he meant. I'm thinking more mortgage, insurance, that kind of stuff, never imagining this. So that is what brought me to opening my center. So my center is literally my family, my children. It's everything we do. So I am a PMA. I am a private membership association, and so um, I have my first miracle. My biggest miracle was my sister. She was my very first person, and with my family being more allopathic, she had ovarian cancer, and she had gone through the Western medicine treatments and had gotten better, but with all those effects, of course, she had lost all her hair and all of that. But it had come back aggressively. It returned aggressively, and that was about the time that I was opening my center. So I just asked her to come in, and I said, I'm going to send you a lot of information. I'm going to send you some videos. Please have an open mind, because I really want you to come. I go, I've heard some amazing things about this technology. And so she's like, well, let me talk. I'll get back to you. I'll listen to everything. So she agrees to come. She's going to continue going through her treatments, but she's at least agreed to come. She comes in for her first 2-hour session. And at the time, the way they were measuring her ailment was she was at 100 and it was her antigen levels. And she was like at 183. And to be free of that ailment, she had to be at 38 and below. So she was really high. So she came in and, of course, she has her wig on and she walks in, she does 2 hours. Afterwards, I looked at her and I'm like, so I go, how do you feel? And she looks at me, and I'll never forget this. She looks at me and she's like, I feel joyful. And that was just so touching to my heart, because our family had just gone through so much. And now I'm, having to worry about my sister as well. And so I said, okay, well, I need you to do the detox protocol. It's so important to do this. So I send her home. She goes, I just want you to know that I'm getting my antigen levels tested because I want to see if this is really doing anything. I'm like, that's great. I go, let me know. I want to know too. So she goes home, she does her detox. When she called me back at the end of the week to let me know that her levels went from 183 to 60 after 2 hours.
Oh.
And I was like, wow. I'm like, you need to come back. And so I'm thinking she's just going to come back and kind of just hold off on the other stuff, but she doesn't. She goes and she does another round of what she's doing right now. And it takes her about 3 weeks to get back to me because she's in so much pain. She calls me and she says, Sonia, I'm in so much pain. I feel like everything is spreading all over my body. I can't even lay down. Everything in my body hurts. And I said, I go, please come now and let's do an overnight. I'll do it with you. Let's do it together. Let's do 12 hours in the system. And she's scared. She's like, is it going to make it worse? And I'm like, no, it's only good energy. It can't hurt you. But, she's so scared, and I understand. So she finally decides to come in, and she does 12 hours. And in the morning, we wake up and she becomes really emotional again. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she goes, Sonia, the pain, she's like, it's all gone. It's gone. I'm like, oh my gosh. She goes, I'm getting tested again this week. Can I come in and do another 2 hours on Monday? And I said, yes. So she goes home, she does her detox protocol, comes back on Monday. totally different person. Like her skin, her face, like there's like hope. I mean, she just looks incredible. She does her 2 hours, goes home, does her detox protocol. Like she's really good about doing everything. She's like, okay, I'll give you a call when I get my results back. So she's been in the system for about 16 hours. She calls me at the end of the week to let me know that she is now at 37. So she is free of her ailment. That was like the most incredible thing. And from then on, it continued. I was so blessed to see so many people. I've had children come in that have autism that are able to do things better, are able to focus, are clear. I had people come in because I had opened up in 23, really January of 23. I had people coming to me from everywhere, from Kansas City, from Colorado, from New Mexico, from Canada. Um, a gentleman who had Lyme disease, who had been I didn't realize how debilitating he was. It was, and he'd had it since he was in high school, and he was coming in on a regular basis because his friend was actually a naturopathic physician, and he asked him to come and he could stay with him. So he today is living the most incredible life. He's out, he's hiking, he's doing things like he's never done before. I had a gentleman who had a heart condition. He came to me from Colorado, and he's definitely overweight. He's one of my really big testimonials. His heart was operating at a 20% capacity, and he had gone to a couple other systems before, but then they came to mine, and they did 9 hours every day for 1 week. So he did about 56 hours. And at the end of that, his heart went from an 20% capacity to 80% capacity. Today he has healed. His doctors are like, we don't even know how you are still alive. He has opened up a center now. He did open up a center in Colorado. um I've had children, people with pain, knee pain, they come in and they have pain, whether it's their shoulder, they're like, they'll go in for 2 hours, they'll see it instantly. I had a book author who, she was completely just blocked. She was so stressed that she couldn't even function. She came into one of my movie night functions, and she felt so much better just after the movie. She's like, I want to do an overnight. She came in and did an overnight. Like you were saying, the body is not just healing physically, it's healing spiritually, it's healing emotionally. So halfway through her night, she came out and she was just letting go of so much with them blocking it, just tears. And we were talking, and I stayed up with her. She went back in. After she was done, she went out and she was able to finish 2 or 3 books and went on book tour. Like, it completely helped her from that perspective. I had, a gentleman, that just did, him and his wife came in and they did 100 hours each of them, together in 1 month. And he had he was dealing with PSA levels. He had a PSA that was at an 8.45. It went all the way down to a 6.24. His wife's blood pressure, of course, that has healed. I had another, I mean, just like you all said, the testimonials are just endless. They're endless. Pets, I have pets that come in. My dog has seizures, and when I bring her in, she doesn't have seizures for days after having her in. Unfortunately, she's a barker, so I have to bring her in on my time when no one else is in the center. So I continue to see that, and I've been fortunate because in my center, I really am really big on creating a community with all of my clients, and so we do movie nights, we do Dr. Sandra's meditation night. I also, once a month, I have a live blood analysis event that I do where I have this amazing person I found who's been doing live blood cell analysis for 9 years. And so we do it where they come in, our clients come in, they review all of their blood, their live cells, and we send them in. After that, she reviews it with them. They send them in for 2 hours. We send them for 2 hours, come back out, redo the test again so that you can see the before and after effects. And it's incredible. What is seen in live blood cells is unbelievable. You can see the inflammation, you can see the parasites, you can see the plastics. She said she's been doing this for 9 years, and what the blood looks like today versus has changed so much in the last 16 months since she's been doing this. So I'm just so grateful because I just feel like, this is something that I was completely led to do. And it's really all I do. I mean, this is like my life. And And I'm grateful to Dr. Sandra. I've had the opportunity to meet with her, and thank you, Dr. Dream. That was actually because of you. And so I've spent time with her, and she's just amazing. She's amazing in all she does. And I'm just so grateful for having this technology to be able to share it with others. And that's really, all I want to do. So just having the community, having everyone has just been incredible. So thank you so much for listening to my story.
Thank you so much, Sonia, for sharing. We're going to do a round robin here in just a sec, but before we do, I want you, since you talked about the detox protocol, just to give us a little more information on that. You were talking about how important that was for your sister, and it is a piece that every single center really puts a focus and an emphasis on. But so go ahead and just in a quick sort of in a nutshell overview of the detox protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming into the center, that's just the first part of your session. The second part, within 24 hours, it's a detox protocol. It's Dr. Sandra's recipe. So it's the baking soda, sea salt, borax, and EE charged salt. It is so important to do that within 24 hours. If you're doing the bath, you do it in hot water, as hot as you can tolerate. Because what you want to do is you want to be able to activate the body to be able to get rid of those toxins, because the body in the EE system is discharging all of those toxins. The salt bath is removing them. So I tell my clients, if it gets murky gray in color, do not be alarmed. But that is so important, because if you skip that process, you run the risk of reabsorbing it. And I know Dr. Sandra has been really adamant about saying this protocol is just as important as spending your time in the center, and make sure that it's sea salt, not Epsom salt. And so I make the baths in my center so people can get them conveniently, but I also have the recipe on my website as well, so that they can make them themselves, especially if they're doing monthly packages and stuff. But super, super important.
Excellent. And just quickly, it's 2 cups of sea salt, 2 cups of baking soda, and a cup of borax, and like a tablespoon.
Two tablespoons of the EE charged salt. Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. There's part 1 is being in the center, in the energy, and part 2 is to do that detox bath. Wow, this has just been amazing. I knew this was going to be a powerful podcast to hear everyone's stories and to just connect and get this information out there. And it's one thing for me to talk about my experience, but it's a whole nother thing to add all of you into the mix. And every center has a story and has testimonials. And if you're watching this and this is your first exposure to EESystem and the technology and everything else, there'll be links in the listing wherever this video is broadcast, and follow those links, get more information, find a center near you. Now, here's what I want to end with. I want to go to each of you, and I don't want a bunch of time on this, but I want a nugget of information that you want to give, or a lesson that you've learned. Jen, you talked about intention and how important that is. But whatever anyone thinks, like, this is a piece that I've learned that if I could share one thing with you after everything else I've shared, this would be part of it. And Penelope, based on your healing experience and your dog's healing experience. So let's start off with Terry. I know Jane's out in the center taking care of clients. Terry, what do you have for us?
The biggest thing that Dr. Sanders got, the power that made the body heals the body. And I thought that was just a cliche when we first started. I thought, yeah, okay, that is awesome information. So that's my 2 cents on it. And I love helping people.
Excellent.
So
thank you for sharing, Terry. Adam, what do you have for us?
Well, from what I've noticed is that when I give one-on-one attention to the people that walk through our doors, and I tell them, your session actually began as soon as you click that book button, and the magic of this EE system started to take effect. Then once they get in here, I asked them, I said, let's set an intention for this session, and then let's drop into our heart and just let that energy grow. And then we have to let go and not be attached to the outcome, because that is where the real movement happens, is when we let go with no attachment to the outcome. So that's my nugget for the day. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. Jen?
Okay, I'm just going to add to that. Same thing. It's really important to encourage your members. It's so important for me. My ministry is to empower them to take back their health. So do the work, go inward, don't overthink it. Just like Adam said, the left brain's always trying to figure things out, which is not always a bad thing. It's great to figure out if you need some minerals or something, but the body is more intelligent than your brain. So go in and receive that healing and then be in gratitude. And if I could add one more thing, unless you're going to do it at the end, is the disclaimer for these testimonials. Are you going to do that?
No, go ahead and add that.
Thank you. So we never say that the EE system is going to do this, that, or the other thing. These testimonials and experiences are just that. They are other people's experiences with the EE system. And I mentioned before, we could have identical twins with completely different experiences. So with that being said, the EE system does not heal you, you heal you. The EE system creates a beautiful, energetic healing space for your body to do what it was created to do, which is to self-correct and heal. So that's the disclaimer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you putting that in. Penelope, what do you have for us? Wait, unmute. You got to unmute.
Sorry.
No, we want to hear. We want to hear.
Well, I think to just take a little bit from each of the people that have said something, I'm a living testimony to the fact that the body heals itself. I had a car accident before I enrolled in school in the jungle of Costa Rica, 2:00 in the morning, went off, rolled my car front to back off of 40 feet into a river upside down. And then I had to walk about 2 miles to my house with 4 broken ribs, and I was a mess. I was in the jungle. It was right before COVID, and it was completely self-healing. So I was out there living off of my little mini farm food, drinking coconut water, jungle everywhere, all of that really good oxygen, swimming in the ocean. And so I want people to understand that, like the sun can give us vitamin D, and we don't see it doing that, we don't see it activating in our bodies. It's not that it's not doing it, right? It is. Or we can, we hear the music coming from the radio, but we don't see how it gets there. All of this is quantum field mechanics, quantum field theory that is very, very complicated. And instead of spending time trying to get a PhD in it, just go and enjoy yourself. Just relax in a room that's got some nice music. Hopefully they've got some warm tea brewing. I did want to mention my center is going to be in Edwards, Colorado, which is the Vail Valley. So, when you're done skiing, come over and just hang out for a couple of hours and reboot your system. I self-healed in the jungle of Costa Rica. This was pre-EES, because scalar waves, it's earth energy. Bioscalar is earth energy, and we can create it even with our minds. But if we're in a state where you're not in the jungle of Costa Rica eating fruit from your garden and off the trees in extremely healthy conditions, the EE system stimulates that environment. So when we're in it, it gives everything that our bodies need to do its own healing on its own. And that's how it's designed and its purpose. So like Jen said, it's not healing you. Your innate wisdom, your body's innate wisdom and your intention to heal is what's healing you. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Sonia?
Yes, I love it. I feel like we all have the same message. Every time a client comes in, I always tell them, first of all, our outside world is very toxic. So we're not going to think about the outside world. Once you step into this space, this is your time. This is you. Go in with an open heart, an open mind. Imagine your most abundant life, whether it's health, wealth, love, joy, whatever that is. See that. Set your intentions and see that you're already healed. We're not going to think about what it is you're dealing with out here because that doesn't matter. What matters is what you're going with in here. And that's the most important thing. So just have an open heart and just trust and allow and set your intentions and enjoy your 2 hour or 3 or 4 or 5 hour session, whatever it is. Thank you so much, Mark, for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to close with my favorite quote from Dr. Sandra, and she said it on one of my earlier podcasts, and that is that knowledge is our power and love is our superpower. And just really strikes a chord with me. I also want to say how honored I am to be part of the EESystem family. And it goes beyond the 5 centers that are represented here. It encompasses close to or over 700 centers all over the world. And these are people that I feel by and large have stepped up, that they all have an incredible story, like everyone that was on this podcast today, of being drawn to this energy, being drawn to this technology to help humanity. And it's not easy to be a center owner. You know, first off, it's the investment, but then it's the investment of your heart and your soul to do what is changing the world. Thank you, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. Thank you to the entire EESystem team. I couldn't be more pleased to be attached to all of this energy and the changes in the world and the changes in all the individuals that are experiencing this. There'll be links attached to wherever this is broadcast. We thank you so much for joining us, and here's to your good health and you taking the reins and making the changes that need to be made. Hope to see you one day in an EESystem center. Thank you all very much, and goodbye to all of us from the It's All Good show.